Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of IK NHL Daily Talk. My name is Iacob and I'm joined here, of course, by my other host, Kyle Wasalinchuk. And I was literally just about to introduce him, and he had to go close his door.
Yep. Yeah, no, I forgot part of the episode, but that's okay. I'm still here, Jacob. My beautiful face will not be forgotten on this show. Which actually,
Right.
I'll put the camera myself. But yeah, we have a lot of news, and Jacob will describe how we're doing things a little differently today.
Yes, as Kyle mentioned, we are doing a little things a little bit different today. As you know, today was NHL trade deadline day, and there was a lot of trades. So the way we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about obviously the news topics, the trades,
Mm-hmm.
these re-signings, and then any like waiver claims or anything. And then when we talk about the NHL scores, we are going to do it in this form where we're going to say the scores of the game from last night. Are going to say the winning goalie and the game-winning goal. So who was the goalie who won the game and who scored the game-winning goal? We're not gonna because if we talk about every single game, which there was, I believe, 8 games last night, that this episode would be almost like maybe like 2 hours long. So we're gonna do that. Then we're gonna talk about the NHL schedule and NHL starting goalies, and of course we'll finish it off with everybody's favorite, the picks of the day. So with that being said, let's go ahead and introduce the first news or the first trade.
Well, actually, Jacob, before we get into it, I want to also mention that we will be posting a lot of shorts here on YouTube, and on top of that, there will be reels on our Instagram, and you can find our Instagram, which it's the same name, IKNHL Daily Talk, on Instagram. And all right, Jacob, I guess let's do it, bro. Which, oops, I pulled up the schedule by accident. You want to do the
You're
first
gonna.
trade, or you want me to do it?
As I did a short on this one, which it will be posted later. I'm going to go first, and the New York Islanders and the St. Louis Blues made a trade today. The Islanders acquired Brayden Schenn in exchange for a 2026 first round pick, a 2026 third round pick, Jonathan Drouin, and goalie Marcus Gidloff. And like I mentioned, as you guys will probably listen to the YouTube short later today, I say this is highway robbery for the Blues. I say the Blues absolutely robbed the Islanders. I think
Mm-hmm.
they got a lot more than what we thought that they were gonna give for Brayden Schenn. I think the Islanders should have gotten a lot more in return, but obviously to get a first and a third, a solid forward and a solid goalie for the Blues, that is very good asset management by the Blues' general manager. And I personally say that the Blues win this one.
Yeah, I mean, personally, Jakob, I have a similar opinion to you. I think, that this is a huge win by the St. Louis Blues. And like you said, they get a good amount of assets for a guy who ultimately wasn't going to stick around long term, anyways. And since they're selling as it was, and they sold a lot of pieces today and over the last few days, and they've also had a couple players and rumors who did not trade it, which Colton Parayko and Jordan Binnington did not get flipped for those of you who are
And
watching.
Robert Thomas too.
That is true. I forgot about Robert Thomas, but yeah, no, it's a good trade and good trade for the Blues. And by the way, Jakob, I checked Jonathan Drouin in comparison to Brayden Schenn's points, and Jonathan Drouin only has 7 less points on the year than Brayden Schenn does. So obviously the Islanders see something, and I do believe that he is a good piece, and he definitely fits the mold for what they want on the island. But I don't know if this was the right package and or the right guy to get. But I definitely think this is a win by the St. Louis Blues.
I would expect like this package to be for like a Robert Thomas or a Colton Parayko. Definitely not for a Braden Shen, but I don't know what the Islanders see in Braden Shen that that they had to give up this package. So yeah, we'll move on to the next news.
Well, obviously they see something, like we said, but maybe it'll work out better than we think. But the next trade, which Jakob also made a short on, but that's okay. I will still talk about it. And the Red Wings acquire defender Justin Faulk from the St. Louis Blues for a 2026 first round pick, 2026 third round pick, Justin Hall, and Dmitry Bukelnikov, which, to be honest, I'm not sure who Dmitry Bukelnikov is, but I do know Justin Hall. He was sent down to the minors earlier this season, and in this deal, he's a cap dump. But I think we'll get to the man of the hour, and that is Justin Faulk. And I mean, I like this trade a lot for the Red Wings. They add a very good defender on a thin blue line, especially on that right side where they need a defenseman. So I really like this trade for the Red Wings. Justin Faulk, he does a little bit of everything. He can provide offensively. He's good defensively. he's a top power play guy or can be a top power play guy, and he can also penalty kill. So I think this is good asset management by the Red Wings, and they get themselves a legitimate top pair defender, assuming that's where they decide to play him.
I do want to make one really quick comment. I did look up Dmitry Bushelnikov because I wanted to know, and a lot of people are saying that he could become he's a 22-year-old prospect, and people
Okay.
are saying that he could become a top six guy in the future. They view him as a very phenomenal player and very good and reliable player. So, so to some people, this trade they see it as well in terms of the Blues. Like I said, and you guys will hear it in the short possibly, that the Blues, I guess they're just going on a small rebuild or kind of like a retool like the New York Rangers are, and they just want assets. They just want picks. They just want, prospects. And, you got to get rid of the old guys to bring in the new guys. And I honestly like this trade. I think I like this trade for the Blues still. I think, they got a lot of stuff for Justin Faulk, and maybe not it's not so much of a highway robbery like the Brayden Schenn one, but still I still view this as a win for the Blues. And I like what I see out of that's coming out of St. Louis, and who knows, maybe they will surprise us come next year or a couple years from now.
Just 1 second, you can bear with me. I'm plugging in my headphones, so one
You're good.
second.
You're all
Yes,
good.
okay. Now the headset is on, so I apologize to anyone if the audio ended up sounding weird through the first couple minutes or first 6 minutes. I will leave a comment down below or leave it in the description that, it might have sounded weird, which this is hopefully a reminder myself I might forget, but yes, Jacob, remind me if I forget, but yeah, no. Great trade by the St. Louis Blues, and, well, actually, I think this one's better for the Red Wings, but I do like it for both sides, and it makes sense. Like, you sell your players that actively are playing for you right now for picks if you want to rebuild, and you do the opposite if you're trying to, get after it. You trade your future for now, and the Red Wings finally making their first playoff push in a hot minute. Clearly, they're trying to go for it now. But yes, Jacob,
Yeah.
I'm ready to move on if you are.
We'll move on to the next trade, which saw the Colorado Avalanche acquire Nazem Kadri. So Nazem Kadri is coming back, but they also got a 2027 fourth round pick from the Calgary Flames for Victor Olofsson, Max Curran, a conditional 2027 second round pick, and a conditional 2028 first round pick. And there was an Instagram post about, what the new top nine was going to look like for the Colorado Avalanche. And I'm just going to be honest with you, Kyle. They are looking scary, especially that first two lines. You had I believe it was like, I don't even remember who did I even say anymore, but it was like Nazem Kadri could be in that second C or that third C, and then you have Nicholas Roy on the left with a someone else on the right, on the sorry, I said that opposite. Nicholas Rise on the right, someone on the left, and that Avalanche team just continues to get more dangerous and dangerous. And if you're, as an Edmonton fan, I'm starting to, shaking my boots a little bit if I have to play against this dangerous Colorado team in the playoffs, because they are looking like they are ready to win the cup again this year, as they are, going all in on all these trades. So yeah, I like this trade for the Colorado Avalanche, but I also do like the package that was given. Nazem Kadri in a fourth for Olofsson, who hasn't been bad. Obviously, I don't know much about Max Curran, and then two, future for draft picks. So I like this trade for both of them. But if I have to declare a winner, I think I'm declaring this one to the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree on this one. I think the Avalanche win this trade, and actually, I'm just looking at Max Curran now, and I have his elite prospects page pulled up, which he is a 19-year-old forward who I guess was a fifth round pick in 2024 by the Calgary Flames, and this season with the Edmonton Oil Kings in the WHL, he has 41 points through 31 games, and he played for the World Juniors or in the World Juniors for Czechia on that team that did beat Team Canada, which that was very unfortunate to watch. But I mean, honestly, that was a good win by them, so I can't really argue that. But yeah, no, I think that was an excellent trade, for the Calgary Flames and the Colorado Avalanche, but especially the Colorado Avalanche, as they get Kadri in a fourth for Olofsson, who, I mean, you get Kadri. Do you really need Olofsson anymore? Kinda, not really. But then they've traded a first round pick, which understandable. They also trade Max Curran, which he's not too bad, and a second round pick. But ultimately, you get a player who mind you, isn't just on a single year contract. He has a bit of term to his deal, and Kadri's excellent. And yeah, they're that top three set or those. I guess that 1, 2, 3 punch down the middle in Nathan McKinnon, Nazem Kadri, and Brock Nelson. That is scary to look at, and I do think this Colorado Avalanche team will be serious contenders going into the playoffs.
Definitely, definitely.
All right, Jakob, are you ready to move on, or do we have anything else to say?
I'm ready to move on to the next trade.
Which, by the way, there will be a short about the Nazem Kadri trade coming out later today. But in our next move, we see the Kings acquire Scott Laughton from the Toronto Maple Leafs for a conditional 2026 third round pick. Which, by the way, the condition on this pick is actually if the LA Kings make the playoffs, that pick becomes a second round. So that is the only difference in that trade, Jacob. I do remember hearing that condition on the live broadcast when I was watching it. And I think that is an excellent trade, by the LA Kings getting Scott Laughton, who, a lot of us we all expected him to get traded. That's the truth.
Hmm.
But like for a third round pick, and the reality is, you know, if they make the playoffs, it becomes a second. And if you get in the playoffs, anything can happen, of course, as we have seen in prior years. Maybe this year something crazy will happen in this playoff bubble, but no, it's good to see, and I think the Kings get a good deal here, especially, they needed someone else, especially after they traded Warren Fogle this year. And they kind of had a weird deadline. They sold Perry, but they bought Laughton, and also they kind of just dumped Fogle. So I'm not really sure what the LA Kings are trying to do, but I personally like this move, but I'm not sure, think about it now, if it makes sense based off of the other moves they made today.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know what they were thinking, but honestly, I like this trade for the LA Kings. I think the LA Kings actually might win this one, because
Mm-hmm.
they got a phenomenal player from the Maple Leafs for some people could say it's for pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this trade. And if Kyle, if you're ready, I'm ready to move on to the next trade.
Yeah, I don't really have too much, like I don't need to sit on this trade for too long because it's a pretty straightforward one in the sense that we know what they got, and it's a 1-for-1, so not a bad trade. But we'll see if LA makes the playoffs. But maybe they'll re-sign Scott Laughton too later in the offseason. We will see. But here, Jakob,
Yeah.
take it away with the other move that the Leafs made today.
The Leafs have traded Bobby McMahon to the Seattle Kraken for a 2026 fourth round pick and a conditional 2027 second round pick. And truth be told, I think the Maple Leafs lose both of these trade. I like this trade for the Seattle Kraken. Bobby McMahon is a amazing player, and to get him for only a fourth and a second round pick next year, like I thought that they were gonna at least get like maybe a second this year and like maybe a but to get a fourth for him, that package was what were the Maple Leafs thinking? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the Maple Leafs were thinking. I think they are serious sellers. I think they were just serious sellers because they just decided to give up all their players for absolutely nothing. So
Hmm.
I don't know what's going on over there. And don't be surprised if, maybe in the offseason, Matthews or Nylander or someone just says, I'm done with this team. This team can't do nothing, so I'm out.
Wow. Well, I don't. I agree. I think that the Leafs lose this one, but I don't think it's as large a margin as maybe you're saying because I just searched up McMahon's stats now. Obviously, it shows him on the as a member of the Seattle Kraken, which he did join, and yeah, in 60 games this season, he has 19 goals and 13 assists for 32 points. But the points aren't everything with this player. He plays a pretty straightforward game, like they were saying on the Sportsnet broadcast that I was watching earlier, and he provides a lot of value, not just on the offensive side, but he's a physical guy. He'll chase pucks down. He'll go do whatever needs to be done. And actually, one player that the Leafs didn't move today, Jakob, was OEL. And I'll circle back on Bobby McMahon in a sec here. But are you surprised that OEL didn't go anywhere today?
No, I'm not. Truth be told, I think that he's just gonna leave in the offseason. I don't think he's going to. I think, OEL is a good player. I like OEL as a player, but I just I with how everything is turning, I'm not surprised that, no one had the right assets for him. So
Mhm. Well, I do know that OEL has a little bit of term left on his deal, and I guess the Leafs were content on holding on to him or trading him, and they scratched him the last few days, just as a protective measure. But yeah, let's circle back to McMahon now. And I mean, over the last season with the Leafs, he had 34 points in 70 games, so he's about a half point per game guy, but I think, he's going to contribute very well into that Seattle Kraken middle six. And I mean, this is a pretty funny thing because, oh, the Seattle Kraken love their middle six forwards and whatnot because we've seen them acquire a lot of those. And sure, Jakob's heard people say that before too.
Yeah, no, I have. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's a good move. And jokes aside, Bobby McMahon will definitely help the Seattle Kraken team. And I'm sure they're hoping to win themselves a playoff round or two. Well, they're hoping for the cup, but we'll see what they can do.
Yeah.
But they currently sit in a playoff spot.
Yeah, and all right, you can move on to the next trade.
All right, which the next trade, which it's a smaller one, sees the Buffalo Sabres acquire Tanner Pearson from the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for a seventh round pick. And honestly, I really like this move for the Buffalo Sabres. They trade a seventh, which it's not a super valuable asset, but you get a guy in Tanner Pearson who I'm actually going to pull his stats up, but he's been a very good depth piece for quite a few years now, and dating back to the LA Kings when they were on their Stanley Cup runs in the early 2010s, he was on a couple of those teams, and he definitely held his own. And actually, I don't he was not on that 2012 or 2011 2012 team. Sorry, he was just on that 2013-14 season as that was his rookie year that year, but no, he's had a stint in, LA, Pittsburgh, Vancouver. He was in Montreal, Vegas, and now Winnipeg. And he's got 13 points in 52 games. But I think, for a seventh round pick, worst case scenario, this guy is just an extra forward and can be a healthy scratch and come in if injuries happen.
Yeah, I think that's what the Sabres, because if you look at that Sabres team this year, it is dangerous. And just to get another extra body just in case an injury piles up, you have someone reliable in Tanner Pearson who does have NHL experience, so he can fit in
Mm-hmm.
wherever he feels like going. But yeah, I'm ready to move on to the next trade.
Yeah, actually, based off the amount of experience like Yak is referring to, he has 774 games of NHL experience. So you aren't getting yourself no rookie of any kind. But yeah, for a seventh, that is excellent value for, the Sabres. And the Jets, just to get a seventh round pick out of him is not too bad either.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Washington Capitals acquired Timothy Lindgren from the San Jose Sharks. I don't know why I almost said St. Louis again for a 2026 fourth round pick. And honestly, I don't know much about Tommy Lindgren. But as I've heard from some people and from some comments that this is like a win-win. This is a very equal, fair value of a trade. People were actually hoping that the Capitals were going to get a fifth rather than a fourth, but obviously, you don't complain when you get a fourth rather than a fifth.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I agree. And I'm actually just like looking at it. People are saying Sandin Liljegren back, which by the way, Yak, I don't know if you knew this, but Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren are reuniting as they were teammates back in Toronto a few years ago. So now they reunite on the
Mm.
Capitals. But let's see what the comment section says here because I've heard that, the apparently people think that this was highway robbery for the Caps and solid trade for the Caps, low key. Kampf trade. That one ended up coming out later. Greer did not cook on this one. What is Chris Patrick cooking? Jury gonna keep Trocheck. Oh my god. Okay, well, some of the comments are related, some of them are not. But actually, Jacob, I have a different take. I don't think this one was a win-win. I actually really like this trade for the San Jose, or sorry, not the San Jose Sharks, the Washington Capitals. As Timothy Liljegren, I do believe I'm going to check his ice time on the year, but he's playing 20 minutes a night for the Sharks, and they just flipped a defender who was playing second pair minutes for a fourth round pick. And by the way, he has a goal and 10 assists for 11 points in.
There's the
Oh,
yawns.
oh no. What's the yawn counter at? I guess maybe
I
one
don't
day
even
we'll
know.
get
I
a
lost
full yawn
count,
count.
guys. I swear, I lost count.
But yeah, Timothy Liljegren, I mean, he can play legit minutes, and I'm excited to see what he can do in Washington, and especially after dumping Carlson, they needed a guy to replace him. And I don't know, like Liljegren's obviously not the same player as Carlson, but he can play some big minutes and fill at least partially that need that they have. But do you have anything else to add, Jakob? Or are you ready to move on to the next deal?
No, I didn't know much about this one, but I was just watching, like reading some of the old comments, and I guess some people were happy, some people weren't. But Kyle says Kyle's the analyst, the expert, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, but I really do like this trade for the Washington Capitals. Oops, sorry. But in our next deal, this one's more of a depth move where we see the Boston Bruins acquire Lucas Reichel from the Canucks for a 2026 sixth round pick. And I really like this move for the Boston Bruins as we've seen Lucas Reichel go and play for Germany at the Olympics, and he is finally, finding his legs in the AHL with the, Abbotsford Canucks. And I mean, for a six-round pick, it's low risk move, and the Canucks earlier this season did trade a fifth-round pick to acquire him, so the Bruins just got him for cheaper than what the Canucks paid, and I mean, Bruins general manager give him some credit as getting a player like that for a sixth-round pick. He might turn out to be nothing, but most six-round picks don't anyway, so we'll see what happens with that. But no, I like the deal. I think it's really good for Boston, and if you're Vancouver, you would have liked a little bit more, I'm sure.
For sure, definitely. I think, like Kyle said, it's more of a depth piece in my opinion. But yeah, it's a good trade, and I like it for Boston, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm actually just gonna look at Lucas Reichel because I'm pretty sure the kid's only like 23, so I'm not sure why he's being tossed around this season and what's going on with him. But yeah, he's 23 until May, so he's a guy who's still got some potential and is a former first round pick. So I would love a guy like that on the Oilers for a six-round pick, even just to go in our system. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Lucas Reichel. But I'm intrigued. I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Jakob, I'm gonna hand it off to you.
All right, and now the Wash. Obviously, again, I think this is more of a depth piece, but the Hurricanes acquired Nick Delorier from the Flyers for a conditional 2027 seventh round pick. And obviously, I'm not going to say much about this because I actually have no clue who this player is. So, Kyle, if you'd like to I will turn it over to you so you can share your thoughts.
Well, Nicholas Deslauriers, he's one of the tougher guys in the league where he is known to be a fighter over the last few years. And I'm gonna pull up his stats this year, which I think I already checked them earlier or earlier, bro. I'm thinking Delorier and earlier,
Yeah, buddy.
earlier. But yeah, he's 35 years old, so by no means is he anywhere near the beginning of his career. He's actually way closer to the end of it. But yeah, they acquire a player who has one assist through 24 games this season. But Delorier, you don't get him for the scoring. He's a guy who, over the course of his career, like this season, he has 33 penalty minutes. But, I mean, I feel like he definitely gets more sometimes. But he's playing 8 minutes a night for the Flyers. And in this move, I mean, the Hurricanes only pay a seventh round pick for a guy who can go and, hopefully intimidate the opposition and can play some, heavy minutes and whatnot. And I remember him dating back to his Anaheim Duck days, and this is one of those funny ones. Like Jakob, he scored a hat trick in the first 10 minutes of a game as a member of the Anaheim
Wow.
Ducks years back. So,
Wow.
which by the way, that is not even a record, but that was pretty impressive. But no, I like this move for the Hurricanes. They had the cap space, and I'm gonna be honest, Jakob, I'm really disappointed with the Carolina Hurricanes and the fact that they didn't do more today because I think they should be going all in, considering how many years they've been contending for. And yeah, I'm disappointed they didn't do more, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess I could say the same because I thought they were gonna do more than what what was expected out of them. So, yeah, no, definitely very disappointing by the Hurricanes.
Yeah, but no, I think they were probably one of the running, like in the running for Vincent Trocheck, as the rumor said. And obviously, Chris Drury and the Rangers didn't end up trading him today. And yeah, it is what it is. But no, I'm not surprised to see that happen. And yeah, for the Hurricanes, that sucks. But yeah, moving on now. And our next trade, we see the Blackhawks acquire Derek Pouliot for Eric Thompson, or Eric, Aiden Thompson from the Rangers. And Derek Pouliot, he's a veteran, AHL journeyman defender who can jump up and play some NHL games here and there. But I'm going to be honest, I don't even know who Aiden Thompson is. So I'm actually going to look him up real quick. But I do know that, Derek Pouliot, he was once a member of the Canucks. He also dates back to his Penguins day, which that is actually the team that drafted him. And, he's been a lot of places since. But for Aiden Thompson, he's been with the Hartford Wolfpack this entire season. And I guess, sorry, he's been with the Rockford IceHogs because he's going to the Rangers. Wait. Yeah, he's going to the Rangers. And we see that he has 40 points. 40 points, brother. 40 games played and 15 points in those 40 games played. So I'm going to be honest. I think this is a win-win trade where basically one team gets a young skater who could still become something, and the other just gets a veteran depth defender.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I'm ready to move on. I have nothing to say.
All right, Jakob, get this one.
All right, the Pittsburgh Penguins just got Elmer Soderblom from the Red Wings for a 2026 third round pick, and I like this trade. I think Elmer Soderblom is a pretty solid player, and to get him for a third round pick, it's a pretty good deal in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like this trade for both sides actually. Like the Red Wings obviously weren't using this guy to the full of his potential, and this guy is a behemoth out there at a whopping 6'8" tall, or is it 6'7"? I don't know.
How's word of the day, behemoth? How's
But
word of the day, behemoth?
that's a I mean Jakob, if you ask me, that's a pretty good word, and it's one that I don't use very often. But no, he's a big boy, and he can lay the body, but he's more skilled than some people might think. And I will not pull up his numbers right now, but yeah, the Red Wings get a third for a player who they aren't going to use, and the Penguins get a player who can jump right onto their NHL roster. And at that, he's not that old yet, so I really like this trade for both sides. I think it's beneficial to both sides. Unlike some deals where you look at it, you're like, this team clearly won and this team clearly lost. No, it's a win-win, and these two teams are right here together rather than one team being up here and one team down here.
I like that. I like the visual representation of Kyle.
I'm just trying to, add some spice. Be like, I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm
All
doing.
right.
All right, Jakob, you can get the. Oh wait, it's my turn. And
How was your
we
one?
see Corey Perry get traded back to the Tampa Bay Lightning, which he was there once upon a time. And by once upon a time, I mean as lately as the 2022-2023 season, where then he got traded to the Blackhawks, or his standing rights got traded there, and then obviously, the Bedard mom joke, and oh my gosh, we're gonna see Connor Perry come by in however many years, and then he ended up going to Edmonton. But Corey Perry, he's a good player, and like I said, the Kings, they did a bit of selling today and a bit of buying, but they get a second round pick for a player who is a veteran in this league, and I mean, I like this actually for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I do like what the Kings got in return. I think a second is good value for a guy like that, but Corey Perry will definitely have an impact on this, Lightning team, whether it's him being a rat or him providing on the score sheet.
Yeah, I like it too. And I guess I don't know what it is with Florida teams and rats because apparently they just love rats now. So
Yeah, well, yeah, Jakob, what do you remember most from Corey Perry in his time as an Edmonton Oiler? And, what do you think about him as a player?
I don't mind. I didn't mind him on Edmonton. I think besides like put all the jokes aside about his curse and all that, I think he's a solid player. It's just he's very unlucky. He's a very unlucky. He can fight. He can. He likes to play the puck. He sometimes plays the man. He's not afraid to get in there. When his team needs help. And yeah, I liked Corey Perry. I appreciated all his time in Edmonton and what he did for us because it's not every day that you ever see a player come to Edmonton where, besides like Zach Cassian or Milan Lucic, who is willing to jump in there and fight for to protect your teammates. And
Mm-hmm.
you know that was a funny joke that actually went around that Connor McDavid's gonna miss Corey Perry when Corey Perry went to LA because Connor McDavid used to get protected all the time by Corey Perry. Connor McDavid got hit. Corey Perry was there to jump in and fight whoever he was. He wasn't afraid to take a fight. So I'm gonna miss Corey Perry on Edmonton, but he's getting old, and I'm hoping the curse can be put behind us and we can move on.
Well, maybe it will be. I guess we'll see. But yeah, no, I like Corey Perry as a player, and I wish him the best of luck in Tampa. And hopefully, for that team and him, he can, maybe get a half decent playoff run going. But yes,
Sure.
Jakob, take it away with our next deal here.
All right. The Panthers just acquired Vinny Hinostroza from the Wild for everybody's favorite player. Future considerations. Swear, there's like a whole team of them. They're the 33rd team in the NHL. They're just called the future considerations, and everybody's named is just future considerations because as you can see in the docs, the Panthers got a future a player in future considerations, and then the Wild did too. But I don't know. I remember talking about Vinny Hinostroza and having him on my when I was every time I would do a franchise mode. For some reason, he would always fall into my hands. So I I like the guy. I use him a lot. Apparently, I use him a lot in Shell because every time I swear every time that I do a franchise mode with any team, the first name that comes up is Vinny Hinostroza. And I look at him and I'm like, you know what? I'm taking him. So, this is one player that, I appreciate, but obviously I don't know how he does in the NHL because I only play games with him, and I do clutch up with him. I score a bunch of goals with him. One time I even put him on my first line when I had Steven Stamkos on my second line center. I put him as a first line. So
Yeah, well, there you have it, folks. Vinny Hinostroza is Jakob's GOAT.
apparently,
But yeah, this season with the Minnesota Wild, Vinny Hinostroza has played 48 games and he has 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points. So not too bad. I can't really complain with those numbers, but he's been a guy who, can play NHL games, has been, at least the last few years, he's kind of been, up and down. But I mean, for future considerations, I like this move a lot for the Panthers. And he's a guy who, if given the right role, I think he can produce. And we'll see what the Panthers decide to do with him. But yeah, I don't know, Jakob. That's really funny that you mentioned that. I remember having him on my franchise mode a lot too. So I don't know what's up with that, but I guess he's our
yeah.
franchise goat apparently.
I guess so. I guess so. But me personally, this is a joke. Obviously, I'm gonna say, it, but my favorite trade was this is. I think this is a trade for the Wild because Future Considerations is a very good player. He just comes and goes. He just goes from one team to another team. It's like half the time it's never really anything. Sometimes it's like maybe a draft pick, but sometimes it's pretty much nothing.
It is literally nothing sometimes, but whenever you see it in today's NHL, like yeah, we used to see superstars get traded for future considerations. Then you would see that become like several first round picks, but nowadays
They're
future
nothing nowadays.
considerations, yeah, it's
They
nothing.
just want to say future consideration just to say future consideration, just to apply that 33rd expanded team.
Yeah, but nah, future consider apparently every team has them because we've seen them get traded a lot, and yeah, like Jakob said, there's got to be a lot of them around here.
I actually had one on my fantasy team. He was just called future consideration. He just chilled.
All right, buddy, you can stop talking now. All right, but the Wild I guess the Wild apparently somehow we got 3 trades in a row from them, which that's kind of funny how that ended up. But in this one, the Wild acquired Nick Foligno from the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for future considerations, and I really like this move for Minnesota because one, you bring in a player who isn't too bad and was actually a captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, and two, you reunite Nick Foligno with his brother Marcus in Minnesota, so they get to play together for the first time in the NHL, and Nick Foligno is 38 years old now, so I'm gonna be honest, this is like a very wholesome trade, and yeah, what do you think about the brothers reuniting?
I definitely think that this was a trade more too because I do know that last year on July 1st they were trying to get Nick Foligno to come, but they couldn't, and I think this is just because they found out that he's ending his career soon, and they just wanted him to play with his brother one last time and see how it feels to play with your brothers. I think this is more of a wholesome move, and respect to the Blackhawks for giving it to him for pretty much nothing. So this is definitely respect to them for just reuniting the brothers for possibly one last time.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I seen a post about it, and I guess when he got traded, Nick Foligno contacted Marcus, and he's like, "Yo, bro, I just got traded," and Marcus is like, "Oh, dang! Well, congrats, that's awesome." And he's like, and Nick Foligno just says, "See you in a few hours," and apparently he just hung up the phone, and that's pretty funny because I mean I'm sure you don't hear those stories every day, but I don't even know if
No.
Marcus knew he'd been traded or if he thought they were playing against him or what, but yeah, Jakob. No, I think that's really cool, and I'm excited to see Nick Foligno and Marcus maybe play on the same line together. All right. Well, anywho, we will move on, and Jakob, take it away.
The Wild acquired Bobby Brink from the Flyers for David Jiricek, and I saw Bobby Brink is a solid player. I don't know much about David Jiricek, but I did see that Bobby Brink was a solid player. He can play that I believe what he plays like that bottom six, or maybe he could play like that second line. But
He's
he's
like
been a
middle
good player.
six.
Middle six, yeah, that's what I figured. And I don't know, but Kyle, do you know anything about this guy named David Yurachek?
Well, I do know that he is a younger player for sure. And actually, David Yurchek is originally a prospect from the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he got flipped to the Minnesota Wild not too long. Like I guess that was literally like last season. And David Yurchek, by the way, is 22 years old, and he's had a couple call ups here and there for the Minnesota Wild. But I guess by the sounds of it, he will be starting his Philadelphia tenure with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms on their minor affiliate team. But Juracek this season with the Iowa Wilds, he had 2 goals and 8 assists for 10 points in 24 games, and he played 25 games with the Wild where he actually failed to record a point. So that is very interesting. But no, I think it's a good move for both sides, as the Flyers get themselves a young defender, and the Wild get a forward who can jump in right now and can help out that team and push them maybe to that next level. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Unless you have something else to add, Jakob, I'll move on. Okay. So in the next deal, we see the Bruins acquire Alex Gendron and Massimo Rizzo from the Flyers for Brett Harrison and Jackson Edward. Which I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who any of those players are. So you want to just move on?
Yeah, let's just move on. The Sabres, they were serious buyers. Oh my God. Like this isn't the last time we're gonna hear about the Sabres, but they got Sam Carrick from the Rangers for a third and a sixth round pick. And I like this trade. I think I mean personally, in my opinion, I don't know if Kyle agrees, but this trade is like this. This trade is very similar. I think, Sam Carrick is a good player and he doesn't want to play on a Rangers team that is, trying to retool and the Rangers don't want him either, so they just decided to give third and sixth. I think actually this is more of an edge for the Sabres. I think you could have gotten a little bit more out of this pick, but honestly, it's like very tight. It's like this tight where this is the Rangers and this is the Sabres. It's like really tight.
Yeah, I agree. It's a close trade, but actually, I would give a slight edge to the New York Rangers, as I think a third and a sixth round pick for a guy who has been literally only a fourth liner at the NHL level is, a good deal. And you get, good amount of assets for a guy that you signed last season to a 3-year deal. And I think part of the reason why the deal is, as big as it is, because Carrick actually still has 1 year beyond this season, Jakob, at $1 million. And $1 million for a single player, especially an NHL caliber guy in this day and age, is not a lot, especially for a pretty good defensive forward in a guy like Sam Carrick. But he did, join the Oilers for that 23-24 playoff run, and I was kind of disappointed to, not see him play more because I actually liked his game and, the physical touch that he brought to the game. But at that point, we still had Derek Ryan, and I guess at the time he was the better option.
I guess so.
But yeah, no, I think good move by both sides. And actually, Jakob, well, actually, no, I'll ask you that later because we still have a lot of topics to go over. But we see the Flames actually make another trade with this one would also include the Rangers, and the Flames acquire Brennan Othman from the Rangers for Jacob Battaglia. And I know both these players are very young, and Brennan Othman, he just has not worked out in that Rangers system. And I honestly think that is a reflection on their development team and how poor it has been for a very long time. Considering, I think this team could have had a Stanley Cup if they hadn't rushed the rebuild, but fortunately they rushed it and they're back into the retool slash rebuilding phase. Yes, Jakob, I know I yawned again, but I think it's a good swap. I mean, maybe the Flames can I guess rejuvenize his career and maybe save it. But going to the Rangers, I'm not sure so much about Jacob Battaglia, but it's like a swap of two prospects, and yeah, we'll see how they turn out for each side.
Yeah, all right. The Capitals acquired David Kampf from the Canucks for a sixth round pick. And obviously I mean I think I don't know, how does David Kampf play? Do you know a little bit about David Kampf? Do you know how his style is, or maybe anything about maybe whether this, they should have gotten more, they should have gotten less, or maybe they got a fair deal? I think personally, I think they got a fair deal for him. Apparently, according to what I've heard that a six round pick for David Kampf is pretty solid, but I don't know. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, he's a fourth line center, and or should be a fourth line center, I think, on any team that he plays for. And I actually remember watching David Kampf, play for Czechia in that one game or in a couple games we played against them at the Olympics, and he actually really impressed me, especially at that on the Olympic stage. He played a lot bigger role for them than he does for the Vancouver Canucks, but he's not a goal scorer. He's got 6 points in 38 games, and he's a penalty killing guy who is very serviceable. And for a sixth round pick, the Capitals needed a defensive center because they did just trade Nick Dowd. So I think for a sixth round pick, they got really good value, and especially you get Timothy Liljegren and David Kampf for just a fourth and a sixth, like not bad. And on top of that, they got a second and a third for Nick Dowd. I think the Caps did a really excellent job.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh, I forgot to mention the John Carlson trade, which that one's a bit iffy. And by the way, I did just post a short about it, so you guys can go ahead and watch that. But yeah, I'm ready to move on here, Jakob. And we only have a few more trades, which this is one of the bigger ones that was made. And we see the Winnipeg Jets trade Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn. Oh, brother, I cannot hold these yawns in. I'm just tired. But yeah,
I was telling you, bro.
they trade Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn to the Buffalo Sabres. But by the way, Luke Schenn will be debuting for his 10th team when he plays for the Buffalo Sabres, and he is close to the record for most teams played for. So maybe he'll push for that. But yeah, he was traded.
Hopefully.
They were traded to the Buffalo Sabres, and in return, Winnipeg gets Isaac Rosen, Jacob Bryson, a 2027 second-round pick, and a conditional fourth-round pick in 2026. And personally, I actually really like this deal for the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, yeah, the Sabres, they get themselves a Logan Stanley and a Luke Schenn, which, by the way, both of them are great defenders, and they will likely pair together on that third pair in Buffalo, and they will definitely help the Buffalo Sabres in their playoff pursuit. But I look at the return that the Jets got. Like, a second is, at least the price of Luke Schenn, if not more in today's NHL. You get Jacob Bryson, who's in his own right is a okay, sixth, seventh defenseman, and then I'm just gonna pull up the trade again. One sec. Do 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 do. You get a fourth round pick as well, which more picks is good. And Isaac Rosen's a pretty dang good prospect. So I like this trade for the Jets, but I actually do like this for the Sabres. And honestly, if this is the Sabres' worst move of the deadline, they had themselves a really good deadline.
Yeah, I think they did. And obviously, we'll move on to the next trade, which
Well,
sees.
hey Jakob, one sec, because I was actually gonna. I was not done talking, Bucko, because I was going to ask you, because I said that they've had a good deadline, but what do you think of the Sabres' overall deadline and how they did and
I,
what they've added? Being in a playoff spot for the first time in a long time.
I definitely think that they went all in with their trades. I think they said, well, we have a pretty solid team. Let's stack up and try to win the cup this year. I think they gave up a lot of picks, a lot of future assets, and I think personally, this is a team that's looking like they want all in. They went all in. So I actually view this trade deadline for them as a success. They got their key pieces. They got rid of some maybe some pieces that they didn't need, and they brought in upgrades. So definitely be careful for the Sabres team because as it's looking, they are looking like they want to go all in and try to win the cup this year.
Which, to be honest, I would not be up against seeing the Sabres make a deep playoff run because I think that would be really fun to see. But yes, Jakob, you can finally move on to this next trade.
I did make a short about this, which has been posted on YouTube for everybody to watch. But the Vancouver Canucks traded Connor Garland to the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for a third round pick in the 2026 draft and a second round pick in 2028 draft. And like I mentioned in my short, you guys can go take a look. But as a former Canuck fan, I actually enjoyed Connor Garland's style of play. He had a lot of heart, a lot of athleticism, a lot of grit, a lot of fight in him. He was never scared to fight for that puck. And, he got tangled with McDavid at one point and, he kept McDavid down there and wouldn't let him go. So, he's not afraid to, put his small body, and he is a short person. So, you expect a short person to, be away from that. But he pushes himself in there. He's got a lot of fight. And get a third in 2026 and a second in 2028. I view this as more of a win for the Columbus Blue Jackets, actually. I don't think,
Hmm.
I think, Vancouver Canucks should have gotten a lot more because Connor Garland is a great player, and he wherever he goes, he will strive to be a better player. Because I remember, I don't know if Kyle remembers this, but there was one play where Connor Garland, when he was playing for the Arizona Coyotes, actually got a puck to the face, and he actually scored.
I
And
do remember that.
The fun part is because it was in hometown hockey against the Edmonton Oilers, and they came to Fort McMurray that one year. So
Oh man, yeah, those was good times. I remember hometown hockey. That was really fun. Man, that reminds me of the shoot on the Stein. I'm gonna be honest, I've not kept up with it. I don't know if it's already happened this year or what, but I really like Connor Garland. I mean, especially back to his Coyotes days. He was a fun player to watch, especially breaking into the league. And I mean, I
Mhm.
like this trade for both sides. I mean, I just the Canucks, all their deals. It's like you were just hoping for just a little bit more in each of these trades. And I agree. I think this is another scenario where you get yourself a second and a third, but I'm sure the Canucks would have loved to have gotten a first for Connor Garland. Did
That's what I
Fortunately,
thought.
they
I
did
thought they
not.
were gonna get a. I thought they were gonna get a first for Connor Garland too, because Connor Garland is worthy of a first round pick. So
Well, but obviously, the Columbus Blue Jackets didn't think so, and I guess the Canucks agreed because they ended up trading him to Columbus. But nah, I love Connor Garland. I mean, I don't like a lot of players on opposing teams, but he's one player that I actually really like his game, and you know, I would love to see him join Edmonton one day. We'll see though, maybe one day.
maybe.
And I will move on to the final trade of the deadline, which saw Ryan Strome land in Calgary for only a seventh round pick in 2027. And to be honest, Jakob, I think this is an amazing trade for the Calgary Flames. They acquire themselves Ryan Strome, and it's not like Ryan Strome's been bad for the Ducks either. It's just that I guess the Ducks don't think they need him anymore. And I'm not really sure why, to be honest, because it doesn't really make sense to me. But no, I mean, he's got like 9 points in 33 games earlier because I did check his stats. And I mean, he's going to jump into that Flames lineup and he's going to help that Calgary team. And for only a seventh, if he plays well down the stretch, they might be able to flip him in the offseason for a fourth. Just saying. I think this is
And
a really good trade for the Flames. And yeah, I don't know what the Ducks are thinking. I mean, they should just play Ryan Strome more because he's actually not that bad.
yeah, and I have nothing to say as Kyle took all the words right out of my mouth. So I'm ready to move on.
All right, well, we move on to our contract extensions, which, Jakob, you can take the first one here.
Jesus, we're already at almost 15 minutes, and we just finished talking about all the trades. But the contract extension, the Seattle Kraken signed forward Jordan or re-signed forward Jordan Eberle to a 2-year contract extension worth 11 million. That is 5.5 million AAV for those who can't do the math. And I like this signing for the re-signing of Seattle Kraken. It's good that they're seeing that you got Jordan Eberle. I believe they got him. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they got him during that expansion draft. Is that
Yep,
correct?
from the
And
Islanders.
he's been solid for the Seattle Kraken, and I'm actually not surprised to see that the Seattle Kraken want to keep one of their best players. I mean, arguably he is one of the best players in that Seattle Kraken team, and apparently Kyle thinks so because he keeps putting him for his picks of the day every time. So
Uh,
apparently, but
yeah. And he's
yeah,
he's
I
the
think
captain, by the way, too, of the Kraken team.
that's true. So yeah, he is a former Oiler player, and when he was in Edmonton, he was good. But I'm glad to see that he's still striving, even in Seattle. He plays for a new team, he's still striving. So good for him, and good for him to land a deal. This is a fair value for a player like him.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll choose Jordan Eberle again today if the Kraken are playing, but we'll see. Jakob making a face over there. He does not seem to like the pick, but no, I
I don't
really
even
like
remember the
this.
picks from yesterday. I gotta do some recap real quick while Kyle talks about the next, and I'm gonna try to figure out what the picks for from yesterday.
Sounds good. But yeah, no, I love the signing. I think it's very good for the Seattle Kraken to, retain their captain and one of their best players. So I do believe, though, that their best players are either one of Vince Dunn or we would see Jared McCann. But moving on to, an extension out of San Jose. The San Jose Sharks extend goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic to a 2-year contract extension worth, which, by the way, Jakob, you did not put the dollar value here, but luckily, I do know the dollar value, and the dollar value was $3 million per for 2 seasons, and that lands at $6 million overall on the deal. And Nedeljkovic has been pretty solid for the Sharks, and a 1-2 punch of Alex Nedeljkovic and Yaroslav Askarov going into the future, I do not hate it. And yeah, I really like this signing for the San Jose Sharks. And I mean, by the way, dating back to when he was a Penguin as lately as last season, he scored a NHL and an AHL goalie goal in the same season, one for Wilkes-Barre and one for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I like his game, and I think that Alex Nedeljkovic is pretty good. But I guess Yak is listening in, and we will. Yak, if you want to just play that for the fans so they can hear the picks for yesterday.
I think I'm just gonna wait until we're done with the contract extension before I do that.
Okay, because he's trying to listen to it in silence, and apparently it's not working. But Jakob, it is your turn, buddy.
The Los Angeles Kings have signed forward Matthew Joseph to a 1-year contract with 900K, excuse me, not 900,000. Jesus Christ, 900 million. God, if someone was making 900 million, I would go and I don't even know. I don't.
Where are you
Yeah,
going with
and
that?
I don't even know bro. 900 million in the NHL seems like, bro, it's literally impossible. Like that, bro. You have to be like crazy good to have a $900 million contract. But
Hmm.
yeah, Matthew Joseph, the guy who got his contract terminated, has signed for a team. He has found a new team, and I don't have much to say. I don't know. I like this. I like this signing. Because Matthew Joseph can be a solid player for any team, and It's sad that it didn't work out in St. Louis, but now he's hoping that it will work out in. I just got a text message from work. Whatever.
In
I'll text him
LA.
later. In LA. So yeah, we will see how that goes.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely intrigued to see how he will pan out. But no, Joseph to LA, it's a low risk move. It's 900K. If he doesn't pan out, so be it. But maybe this is your Warren Fogle replacement since you didn't get a replacement for him, or I don't know, maybe Perry, who knows. But he definitely fills a void on that roster, and I'm sure we will see him play some games for the Kings here down the stretch. But moving on to the last contract extension prior to getting into our waiver claims from yesterday, which this has been a lot of news, Jakob. But we see the New York Islanders re-sign forward Jean-Gabriel Pageau to a 3-year deal worth 4.85 million AAV, and I don't see a problem with this contract. I mean, he's a very serviceable, 3C for the Islanders, and that's about the value of a 3C, especially a good one like him in today's NHL at about $5 million. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but I do like Jean Gabriel Pageau's game and everything, and I still remember him dating back to his Ottawa days. Do you remember Jean Gabriel Pageau in Ottawa, Jakob?
Remember John Carlo Pageau in Ottawa, and he was a pretty good player there.
Yeah, and he's been a pretty good player since arriving in New York too. But Jakob, let's move on to these waiver claims, and I'll let you get the first one.
All right, the Philadelphia Flyers have claimed forward Luke Glendening off of waivers from the New Jersey Devils. I did mention it briefly. No, I'm just gonna say all of them. Florida Panthers have claimed Cole Reinhardt off of waivers from the Vegas Golden Knights, and Vancouver Canucks have claimed forward Curtis Douglas from the Tampa Bay Lightning off of waivers. So we did mention you guys have to listen to the other episode that we made, but I did mention all the 8 players, and these 3 players were part of those 8 players that were claimed off of waivers or that were put on waivers, but. Yeah, 3 of them got claimed, and good to see that all of them have found a new team.
Yeah, and I'll quickly say like what these players are and what kind of role I think they could provide for their new teams. But Luke Glendening, he's a defensive 4C who can win a lot of faceoffs. So I mean, we're gonna see him hopefully, help the Philadelphia Flyers and win some draws for them and maybe get them over that playoff hump down the stretch. Cole Reinhardt is a bottom 6 forward for the Vegas Golden Knights who, will join the Florida Panthers and we'll see how that turns out. And then Vancouver Canucks get themselves a very big man in the 6'9", 243-pound Curtis Douglas, and should be interesting to see. But yeah, those are your players. And Jakob, are you ready to move on to something that isn't talking about, trades or signings or waivers?
Bro, I swear, like I feel like we literally spent an hour. I literally knew that it was going to take an hour. Imagine if we had to if we had to recap every single 8 games from yesterday. It would actually take 2-hour long podcast.
Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, this is real good. I'm glad. We have a good episode here, and let's move on, Jakob. Let's get
Oh,
this done. But
real quick. There is brand new news that was so there was a hearing today for Evgeny Malkin. I don't know if you guys watched the game or not, but Evgeny Malkin did slash Rasmus Dahlin in the head, and
oh,
we just got word today, according to the NHL, that he has been suspended for 5 games. Let me double check that to make sure. Yes, he has been suspended for 5 games for slashing Rasmus Dahlin in the head. So, it's not good, but at the end of the day, I don't know what was maybe said or what was done, but Evgeny Malkin got mad and, you know, he did what he did. So, we'll see when he comes back. But yeah, unfortunate news for Pittsburgh Penguins fans.
yeah, I seen the video of the slash, and I'm gonna be honest. 5 games is deserved. It looked like an intent to injure Rasmus Dahlin, and if it's an intent to try to injure a player, a suspension is warranted no matter what the scenario is. So, unfortunate to see for Penguins fans, but Jakob, let's do these freaking scores. Which, by the way, I will scroll through Puck Empire real quick here because obviously we'll start from the scores dating back or the trades dating back to yesterday and whatnot. But did we talk about the David Perron trade? I feel like we did not.
Uh, well, David Prono got traded for a conditional fourth. There you guys go.
Yeah, and he should, he's going back to Detroit, which I think we missed that one. I swear we didn't talk about it. Maybe I'm crazy,
I
but I
don't
don't
even,
know.
maybe, I don't even know.
But yeah, no, good to see him join, the Detroit Red Wings for round two, and the Senators get themselves a pick, which obviously they view Warren Fogle as an upgrade over David Perron, so we will see what happens there. But I'll just scroll through everything real quick so you guys can, take a look at everything we spoke about. I swear, did we speak about John Carlson or am I tripping?
I think we didn't speak about him. I think you got to talk to him about him real quick.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, apparently we missed the John Carlson trade because I guess apparently AI will only cover the trades that happened on deadline day, which was today. And for John Carlson, the Anaheim Ducks acquire him, and I did make a short about that, and it's honestly quite the blockbuster move. But the Washington Capitals receive a conditional first round pick, which, to be honest, I don't remember what the condition was, and they also receive a 2027 third round pick. And you guys can go ahead and watch my short for my opinions on this one, but I was definitely shocked to see this happen, and I did not think John Carlson would get moved. Period. To be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Jakob. Let's move on to these scores, and I'll let you get the first game here.
All right, so in the first game, we see the Toronto Maple Leafs play the New York Rangers. The New York Rangers won this one 6-2, and the winning goalie was Igor Shesterkin, and the game-winning goal was scored by none other than Alexis Lafreniere.
Oh, wow. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why I thought that was Alex Laferriere, but it is indeed Alexis Lafreniere. But then moving on to the Utah Mammoth, where they visit the Philadelphia Flyers, and they win this one 3-0. And Vitek Vanacek would record a shutout in this one, and Nick Schmaltz would open the scoring and end it all.
All right, going to the Buffalo Sabres. The Red Hot Buffalo Sabres visit the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they come out on top 5-1 in this one. And the winning goalie was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and the game-winning goal, which was the second goal of the game, was scored by Josh Norris.
And apparently, Evgeny Malkin got so mad that he ended up slashing Rasmus Dahlin in the head.
Yep.
But then moving on to the Florida Panthers, who visited the Columbus Blue Jackets. We see the Blue Jackets win this one 4-2, and Jet Greaves would win this one with a solid performance, and Boone Jenner would record the game-winning goal for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
All right. Moving on to the Bruins visiting the Nashville Predators, where the Nashville Predators would get the better of the Bruins, and UC Saros would win this one, and Philip Forsberg would score the game-winning goal.
Definitely not the result I was expecting, considering the Predators did trade seemingly half their roster. Obviously not actually, but it feels like it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning visit the Winnipeg Jets, and you would expect the Lightning to win. Wrong. We see Winnipeg win this one 4-1, and Connor Hellebuck obviously had himself a great game, and Mark Scheifele would score your game winner in this one.
All right, moving on to the Ottawa Senators visiting the Calgary Flames, and Ottawa would come into Calgary and break Calgary hearts as they win this one 4-1. Linus Allmark would be the goalie, and Dylan Cousins, me and Kyle both had him on our team's picks, actually gets the game-winning goals. So that one hit for us.
We love to see it. And in your last matchup on the day, which seen the New York Islanders visiting the LA Kings, the Kings actually win this one 5-3, and they desperately need points in that Western Conference playoff race. But Darcy Kemper would be the netminder for the LA Kings, and there. Speak of the devil, Alex Laferriere did actually score the game-winning goal for the LA Kings.
Yeah, so there you have it, folks. And now we'll move on to the NHL schedule slash the NHL starting goalies for today.
All right, Jacob. Like always, I will say the game and the time that it
Refresh it
starts
real
at.
quick. Refresh the page real quick just to make sure that we have a correct for everybody.
But yes, like always, I will say the game and what time it is at, and Jacob will say the starting goaltenders. So our first game
All right,
today,
let's go.
which is at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, and that'll be 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And by the way, our only game at that time frame apparently, we will see the Florida Panthers visit the Detroit Red Wings.
That is Sergei Bobrovsky, who was actually rumored in a bunch of trades, but unfortunately the Panthers decided not to sell him, against John Gibson.
All right, our second matchup, we see the Colorado Avalanche visit the Dallas Stars, and that game will be at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
We're going to see Mackenzie Blackwood against Jake Ottinger.
All right. Then we see the Vancouver Canucks go into Chicago, and that will be at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
That is going to be Nikita Talopilo against Arvid Soderblom.
All right. Then we have the Carolina Hurricanes coming into Edmonton, which Jacob and I will be tuning into this game right as soon as we're done with this podcast episode, actually. And that'll be at 7 p.m. Mountain Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
We're going to see Frederick Anderson versus Tristan Jarry.
Then we have the Montreal Canadiens rolling into Anaheim, and that game will also be at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah.
And we're going to see Sam Montembeault against Lukas Dostal.
All right, and then the last two games on the schedule for tonight, we will start at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And the first one is the Minnesota Wild visiting the Golden Knights.
And we're going to see an unconfirmed Philip Gustafson against a confirmed Akira Schmid.
I'll just reload the page real quick just in case it's been updated, which it has not been. And then the second matchup at that same time frame is the St. Louis Blues visiting the San Jose Sharks. And
we're going to see Joel.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, you can go ahead and say it. Go.
I was going to say, the man who, I'm pointing at right here recently signed an extension as soon lately as today. But Jacob, you say their names now.
As Joel Hofer against Alex Nedeljkovic. So there you have it, Kyle. We'll scroll one more time just to go over the goalie performances. And I have the YouTube video pulled up for our picks of the day, so we will take a quick listen.
All right, Jacob, get it.
Which they did, and he did. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and... Actually, Kyle's going to go ahead and go first because I went first yesterday.
Oh boy, Jacob's putting me on the spot here. I see you, bro. But I'm going to take the Calgary Flames to beat the Ottawa Senators, actually, which I think that might be the first time on the show that one of us has taken the Flames at all. I don't know for sure. One of you has been watching for long enough, and I'm going to take a Bo Horvat goal.
Okay, and I'm actually going to hopefully pray for Kyle's revenge, as I'm going to take the Islanders to beat the Kings as they complete their California road trip, and I'm actually going to take a Nazem Kadri point. All right, so there you have it. I said the Islanders to beat the Kings, which they did not, and I don't know if Nazem Kadri got a point. I don't think he did.
I'll go double check that right now, real quick.
But Kyle said a Bo Horvat goal and the Flames to beat the Sens, which unfortunately I don't think any of those hit either.
Jacob, Nazem Kadri did indeed not get a point, so sad.
All right, so Oh, by the way, before we do this, I do want to shout out my little brother Anthony, as Vegas did win. Did Vegas even play last night? Vegas won last night. So, and my little brother, as you guys can see right here, he just came back from the pool. He does want to get a shout out because he's a long-term Vegas fan and 5 years Vegas fan. So
Vegas didn't even play yesterday, bro.
Yes, they did. They played the Detroit Red Wings, buddy.
They played
Look at your team.
today.
No, we played yesterday. We beat them in overtime.
This guy's actually a dummy.
They did not play yesterday, bro. They played today.
That dates back to Wednesday that they played, where they beat the Detroit Red Wings
Yeah,
in
Wednesday.
overtime.
Bro.
Yeah, right.
Well, Wednesday. Anthony
Well,
just wants a shout out because he's a Vegas fan, and
All right,
bro,
well,
this guy
Anthony,
got
while
me.
you're here, do you want to say anything?
You want to say anything about Vegas and what do you say about them?
Okay, maybe don't pan the camera to him while he's in his underwear.
Well, do I say like 2 words? Okay, well, go ahead and make our picks for today, Kyle.
All right, well, I'm just looking at the games we have left on the schedule, Iacob, and unfortunately, it is already 7 o'clock, so we will only be making predictions on games that, start at that 7 o'clock time frame or later. And you know what, Iacob? I'm going to take the Minnesota Wild to beat the Vegas Golden Knights. Suck it, Anthony. And I will take a...
You can tell
I'll
that
take-
to him again when he comes down. He'll probably come down because he says he's
Yeah.
gonna go put some pants on, so he's gonna come down and you can tell it to him again.
And I'll take a Robert Thomas point, as he did not get traded today for the Blues.
I am actually going to take the San Jose Sharks to beat the St. Louis Blues. Sorry, my girlfriend. But I'm going to take against your team. And I'm actually going to take the forward point. If anybody remembers the forward, it is Michael Misa. But I'm actually going to take him to record a point tonight for the San Jose Sharks. So there you have it, folks. Kyle took the Wild to beat the Golden Knights and a Robert Thomas goal or point, whatever. And then, oh, wait, he's coming down. And then I took Michael Misa point and the Sharks to beat the Blues. Hey, Anthony, Kyle, go ahead and say your pick real quick for Anthony and for the game tonight and what you think.
I think that the Minnesota Wild will beat the Vegas Golden Knights.
I think wrong. I think Vegas is gonna beat the Wild 4-2.
Well, there you have it, folks. Anthony has his pick, and we'll just make it a Vegas pick, just for simplification. And you know what? We will actually include him for the picks tomorrow. So Anthony has his pick. Anthony, you want to make a player pick? You just need to choose any player that is currently that hasn't started their game yet, and you can choose a player who you think is going to record a point or
Vegas,
goal.
Minnesota, or Vegas, or Blues, Sharks.
I got one game.
Just one game.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll pick the Jack Eichel from Golden Knights 1 point. More than 1 point.
Okay.
All right.
So
there you have it, folks.
The special guest today is Anthony Aaron, who's a long-term Vegas fan. And say a few words about about your team and why
I got
why
three
you're.
words to say. Let's go Knights.
Well, there you have it, folks. Kyle, apparently, Anthony is a diehard
And
fan.
I have 4 words to say. Oilers are butt cheeks.
Okay, yeah, you're biased now. We get it.
Oilers are butt cheeks. There you have it, folks.
Yeah,
Apparently, the Oilers are terrible.
Well, coming from a Pacific Division rival, I'm not surprised that.
Hey, and by the way, we play the Oilers in a couple weeks. Or a couple days.
We'll be recapping that. So, Kyle, go ahead and do today's outro.
Well, actually, Iacob, I have some very nice news real quick for you before I do the outro, but we have gained a subscriber on YouTube. Unfortunately, I cannot see who it is just yet, but we are up to 15 now, not just 14 no more.
Wow. Well, hopefully. Anthony, are you subscribed to our channel?
On my phone.
Are you subscribed on your you can subscribe on your computer, you know?
You know,
I don't have a computer.
Yeah, you do. You go on your never mind. Well, and I will get Anthony to subscribe later today, guys. I promise. So we're gonna actually have 16 if he hasn't been subscribed already.
all right, well, sounds good. But Iacob, on that note, let's ask this question of the day and let's get this episode done and over with. Which maybe we'll, have Anthony reappear as a special guest on the show another day. We'll see.
He definitely will. But Anthony,
If he wants.
do you have a question for the fans?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Nah, I just have something to say.
All right, say what's up.
Y'all better subscribe right now.
There you have
To
it.
y'all's
So
YouTube channel.
please do listen to the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony. But my question of the day is, who do you think? What team what came out winners and what team came out as losers in this trade deadline? And was your team a winner or a loser? Personally, I think Anthony's team was a loser because they didn't make any trades.
Well,
besides the Cole Smith one.
Cole,
And Nick
Murphy
Dowd.
is so old.
Bro, Murphy's a good defender.
He's old. He's
I don't even.
what,
I don't.
38?
I don't.
I was gonna
No,
say that's funny coming from a guy whose team acquired Nick Dowd, who's 35.
Yeah, exactly. So you're the one. But anyway, go ahead and do today's outro, as we could keep going on and on about roasting Vegas fans. So.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching as always. Thank you, Anthony, for putting your picks in the day and
Yes.
telling us to subscribe. And please do leave a like as well if you listen this far. If you listen this far, comment the words "Golden Knights" just so we know you listened. And
All right.
yeah, on that note, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna go watch this game, and we will see you all later. Peace out, folks.
Peace out, y'all.
We'll see Yakko's beautiful balloons, maybe.